Okay, so I already described the myth, the legend. Here's the man, Adam Richmond from Southern Off-Road. And man, thanks for delivering this, first off, during the Corona days. So it's hard for everybody to get away, and we're all struggling as business owners to just keep the lights on, manage what's going down. But sometimes a gem comes out of all that. You had extra time and care for this old girl.
Yeah, I got 2 extra weeks, and I think it was worth it. The extra 2 weeks gave me the time to really finish it the way we wanted to. So
that's true, because in typical Higgs fashion, it was Adam, I got a 19 Taco.
Yep.
I want to stab some PROROCK 80 axles I have. He's like, love it, project's badass. Wait for it.
Big show.
How long do I have? Well, we're like 4 weeks out. We got to load that thing on a trailer and get to Dallas. So now for everybody watching this thing, you know, there was a couple snippets over the past few months where I was alluding to a Tacoma build that was coming. And it's supposed to start a little rivalry with our Gladiator, which is built with an Overland theme. Knowing the rack was going to be made for the Taco, which it is, it's now released and out and available for everyone to purchase. It's like, let's build an Overland Tacoma. And naturally, it had to be like this. This is my version of Overland, because that includes big rocks. So, builds like this are not cheap. Adam can attest. Building crazy 6x6s, time warp custom vehicles where they're sticking JK undercarriage under early Bronco bodies. I mean, builds like that are ones gearheads go crazy over. They also take somebody paying for them. And what I pulled off here is what you can't see about 80 feet down the shop is the sad original Legend that is gutted sitting on jack stands, because a lot of this is donor parts. And parts like this, PROROCK 80s with RCV, shafts, PSC, full hydro steering, a lot of that parts list adds up quick when you're adding that to the labor. Which just had a lot of labor because of some of the custom one-offs. You know, we don't make an open fender system. But Adam knows my style, actually share that style. Yep. Low slung, low center of gravity, good stability. It just gives it this menacing look to have big tires hunkered down in the suspension. Well, to make that work though, is a builder nightmare. The easy way is going up.
Absolutely, it was as hard as it could possibly be. It was, hey, I've already got the axles, I've already got the shocks, I've already got this, and then, oh, by the way, I want to put 43-inch Mickey Thompsons on it, and I don't want it to be more than 6 feet tall on the bed. And it was just, I picked the bed height. It was basically everything you could throw at it to make it as hard as possible, but it made it look like a Fab Fours truck.
Yep.
And ultimately, that was, we wanted to pull off what I thought Greg's vision of a Tacoma would be. And so there it is.
There it is. It does not get much better than this. So this is basically our matrix front. You look at it head on, this is exactly what's available off the shelf in our catalog. And sick looking. I mean, the bolt-in inserts around the lights allow you to splash the color. I say it often, well, here's a good example of doing that. And then putting it on the Fairleigh, awesome little touch. The sides, clearly modified. You know, when you're trying to put this big a tire, that's absurd. 43s on a Taco, just doesn't happen. Not without being some wonky thing with 15 shocks mounted to it. I mean, this is gonna be a low working rig, so you've got to just open the fenders. And similar to what we've done on the heavy duties, trying to fit no lift 40-inch tires, that's basically a harder ass gear. Now you're taking not a midsize, but a mini truck, basically, and saying keep it low with 43s up in the ante. And trust me, other big builds we've done, it's not just what you think. You've got steering, and you're always thinking about the compression. But then there's this whole balance, because the more you droop, even after you've locked, you think, oh, I'll put a bump stop, I'll just have no up travel, and that'll solve me. Well, it hits that bump stop immediately, and when you start drooping, the rotation of this tire gets worse and worse. And so even if you don't have wonky geometry that's changing the front to back of it, that whole steer scrub as the other tire drops gets worse. So it's a balance between limit straps, bump stops, steering.
And then every time you think you've got it figured out, once you put the real tires on, it changes. Because when Greg dropped this off at our shop, this tire did not exist.
True.
So we were actually working off of the competition version from his buggy, and Mickey Thompson made a close version, but this thing is actually like almost 1.75 inches wider, and an extra tread lug. So we got it all the way done. We thought we had all the math figured out.
This is wider than the Pro X.
Yes, sir.
Sticky.
Yeah. Or your Pro X, because yours were very worn and very rounded. so by the time we put it on, everywhere we thought we had more than enough room, you know, full gaps, everything looks great, nothing fit. And so it was kind of back to the drawing board. And like when you get into looking at it, not only did we cut the fender out, we actually cut the firewall to the point that we reshaped the floor. And so like if someone wanted to reconstruct something like this, it is a monumental task, kind of like an open fender kit. Like you got to go all the way to make it happen.
Well, the original open fender designs that we had were like that. Fred Flintstone. You could put your foot through the floorboard. Yep. But we realized, you know, that's a bit intense to ask shops to do that around the country. So we went back to drawing board, and we had limiting factors knowing it was trying to be at scale versus what you guys could do.
Just one off.
Dump man hours in it and make it happen.
But we used all the same things that we learned from doing open fender with doing the foams and all of the, you know, making it so correct clean. Back, you know, where it's clean.
Absolutely. So now you're going to get a sneak peek at the tube doors. These things, really to case in point there, talk about being wild. I mean, Adam admitted 10 minutes ago before we started filming, when he opened the box, he expected to see a tube door, because I called them a tube door.
Yep.
And so what would you say the difference is between that imagination and what you're looking at here?
When we took them out of the box, it looked like a fish. It was an odd shape. And then you put it up there, and it was amazing how it took on a brand new body line for the Tacoma. It's got a bulge to it. It's got a radius to it. It's a really unique perspective that once you get the entire picture, they're awesome. And the fact that they have a cup holder built in, sold.
Well, and if you look back, you just go Google it right now. Toyota mini truck tube doors. Well, they don't really exist. There were some back for the early 80s models, but what you more see is guys taking their mini truck and cutting their actual factory door down, plating the top, and that's the total throwback I wanted here. All those guys are going to see these doors and start salivating, knowing exactly what we did there. So it worked out sweet. Now, Tacomas weren't made to have tube doors. Jeeps were. Jeep designed it to have the doors removed. Easy plugs, waterproof interior. There's a lot of things about Jeep lending themselves to that. Taco has none of it. Yeah. This may as well be a Mercedes station wagon. It's not intended to have tube doors. So you have a complicated harness, not so easy to take off. It doesn't have simple exposed hardware. Knowing we want to make this a real product, we had to address some of that. Now, it's still not for the faint of heart. It's not going to be as easy as Jeep. You can't just go, oh, it's raining, let me throw my doors on, 2 posts. Eventually, I have a vision for that. First, we got to prove it. So, boom, we set it up. I told Adam at one point, I was like, hey, this isn't official to the build, but I like a little boom boom. Throw me some subs in there. He's like, hell yeah. Put some subs in, go to fire it up, and realize no speakers. All the speakers are in the doors of a Tacoma. Not even little tweeters, mids, nothing to have any words. All you have is bass going. So I was like, well, win some, you lose some. At least I'll have subs when that's going. Nope, not good enough for Adam. So he takes it upon himself and freaking sticks speakers in the doors. So he modified it. You just got to come in here. Don't worry about it. Check this out. So they made the enclosures, front and rear, to work in our door, kept the schematics, by the way, so that they might be able to offer a complementary product to ours in the future. And in true Southern off-road fashion, didn't just make it to where it's got a standalone harness, something to drain your battery. Nope. They figured it all out to plug right into the OE harness, which is sweet. So it's a huge step towards what we want, is getting Jeep-like, where you could unplug these. Eventually, if we re-engineer the post, slide it off, slide your factory doors on, replug it, and go. So these are some one-off modified Gladiator light sliders that now fit the Taco. So we already have on the docket, it's happening this week, designing true rock sliders for Tacomas. Not with this look in mind, but it's pretty solid. So we may end up with a version like this. It's gonna be pretty tough with this truck making the show circuit and not having something available.
We might just have to swap them out.
Or that.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured these were welded on.
They are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're real sliders at this point.
So what else? Tell them about the suspension and the undercarriage before we get into the transmission interior.
Perfect. So IFS truck, switch into straight axle, and then we want to put it on 43s but make it low. And so I wanted to do, I had an entire plan before Greg dropped the truck off that it was going to be 4-link front, 4-link rear. I was going to do a fuel cell in it, and we were going to roll. And then he gave me a time frame of about 3 weeks, and then he gave me a height. And all of a sudden I couldn't do a 4-link in the front anymore. I couldn't do a 4-link in the rear because I needed to keep the factory fuel tank. So all of my plans went out the window. So we ended up with a radius arm front suspension, super long. We made our own full belly skid plate, fuel tank skid. We did a triangulated 3-link with track bar in the rear and radius arm with track bar in the front. And I was scared to death because I know how Greg likes to take them off-road that this thing wasn't going to flex. It was actually my first experience working with ORI struts. So I was reading feverishly at night trying to figure out exactly, one of the last things you do when you're doing this is charging the shocks. So making sure that we weren't going to get to the end and then have issues. Best product of a shock that I've ever worked with, as far as out of the box, airing them up, and then the functionality, the fact that you have an air shock that works as a sway bar and everything else. I mean, it's an all-in-one package and it worked really well. Then instead of getting me a Dana 60 or a Toyota axle, Greg has to put a Dana 80, which the pumpkin is literally this big around. And when you get a chance to look underneath this truck, you'll realize that at ride height, there's about 4 inches between the top of the diff and the oil pan. And so if you're gonna have any up travel whatsoever, you gotta keep making room. So,
admittedly, I would not have got PROROCK 80s for this.
Understand, but you had a set.
But
so
you're
it
right,
made sense.
and he is not lying. The diff on these is ridiculous.
And so the axle's like almost 2 inches further forward than we originally anticipated, because the way the Tacoma oil pan drops, and then they've got this housing on it. I looked in every magazine, everything I could find to try to get a replacement oil pan that was a little bit higher slung, and we were going to do remote oil, like anything that we could to
drive some Tacoma.
We were going to drive something.
I am so glad you did not do that.
We tried everything to get some room, and ultimately it looks really nice. It made us cut this front bumper a little bit more than we anticipated, but we finished it as a Fab Four bumper should be finished. We think it turned out really cool. So when Greg told me that he wanted to build a super slow, I immediately thought of Marlin crawler. And I said, no problem, we'll do a Marlin crawler taco box in it. And that's a huge problem, because if you go on their website today, I think it says there's a 12-week wait, and Greg wanted the vehicle built in 3 weeks. And so the guys over there were awesome, and we worked together to figure out that we could use a couple different combination of parts, and they were able to slap one in together for me in a hurry, and I really appreciate that. So pretty cool. So this is the Marlin, it's called a taco box, high range, low range. It also has a neutral, which is another thing that's pretty cool. So from high, shifts to neutral, shifts to low. This is your factory transfer case, 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. And then this is your high range, low range for the stock Tacoma box. So this is a 2.7 to 1 reduction. This is a 4.7 to 1 reduction. Then you've got plus first gear plus your rear end gear ratio to end up with a 272 to 1 crawl ratio. To make it happen and make it look the way we wanted the whole project to look, Greg had this idea of the center console being like the focus of the truck. So I wanted to do this gel coat white 100% custom built fiberglass center console. I wanted to have the switch panel built into the front. And then I also wanted to do electronic parking brake because I didn't need one more thing in the way. So we did a linear actuator electric parking brake, which I thought turned out really cool. Let's see here. We timed out, but anyway. And then just because we wanted to make it a show truck as well as functional, we did this piece is actually illuminates the color of the rock lights. So as you do that, it turns out pretty cool.
Check this out. So Adam showed me this little app, and boom, change the speaker colors. Which, look back in there, look at that center console.
So yeah, so we wanted to draw attention to the main feature of the vehicle. So we thought it'd be a cool way to tie it all together. And then we put all the rock lights on one circuit, and then even made the Fab Four logos in the doors match. So just the little details.
So yeah, with lights, doors, sweet steering wheel, custom center console, Fab Fours goodies, maybe a vision to the future of open fender for tacos, the Matrix sitting proud, rock sliders, low crawl ratio, unbreakable axles. It's everything I hope for. And as usual, Adam Stone Off-Road crushed it, just like on the crawler hauler, and just like on the next one.
I look forward to it.
So in Corona fashion,
yeah, we'll do the elbows here.
Good job on that build, and I guess we'll see you guys on our next episode of what's going on in Fab Four Shop.